Welcome back to day 11, the 3 principles of strategy. Yes, strategy is really very simple, although we tend to make it more complicated because we dive in and we don't know what we're doing. Well, today I want to break down strategy into 3 very, very simple principles that if you do this one principle after another, you are going to find your strategy development so much easier than you may well have found it so far. So here we go, let's get straight on in. Principle number 1, start out by setting strategic direction and those high level goals first. So this of course sounds like I'm just saying go do your strategy. And yes, direction and goals are a very, very big part of it. If you don't have direction agreed and focused, you can't do the rest of strategy development. And alongside that, you should have some very high level goals. It is quite simply the underpinning foundations of your strategy. The direction should not really change. Changing direction is like steering a ship away from an iceberg. It's very slow and very hard and should not be done very often. Your direction should be aligned with a vision statement. In fact, sometimes setting strategic direction is writing that vision and mission statement for your organization, or for your business unit, or for your team, depending on what level you are at. Set that strategic direction first. Everything else comes out from that. Now, once you have your direction, we move on to principle number 2. Create some objectives and some initiatives that enable you to achieve that direction, achieve those high level goals that come straight out of your direction. I really want you to have a think about what is it that needs to be created to align with that direction. Now, this is where you pull on your entire team potentially. You know the direction, now you need to ideate. So use your people to ideate. You want more opportunities, more options on the table than you need. You only actually need one potentially for each thing, right? And this is where you then go into developing and rehearsing your initiatives to achieve those strategic objectives and goals. Now, what do I mean by develop and rehearse? There's a whole thing in strategy development which I could spend hours going into. In fact, I dig into this more in my academy. But for right now, the underlying principle I want you to understand is that by rehearsal, we're trying to understand how well is this going to go. Is it going to achieve what we want it to achieve? You basically want to do the best assessment you can to ensure success. Of course, you're not actually going to do the work, so you don't have a guarantee of success. But this is the bit that most people stop at. They set a direction, they set an initiative, maybe just a goal without initiative. They never rehearse. Rehearsal is what sets apart the organizations that do great things and those that don't. Do some rehearsal. The final and third principle is once you have your initiatives, implement. Yes, implementation, managing unexpected inputs, and continuous learning that feeds back into your 3 steps of the process is part of strategy. It's why you should have time for strategy on your calendar every single week, because you might set your strategy once a quarter, update it once a quarter, maybe fully set it once a year, but you should always be feeding back into the loop. So you need time on your calendar every single week as a leader for strategy. The higher up the ladder you are, the more time you need in your calendar for strategy, because the more complexity you are responsible for. So that's it. 3 very simple principles for something that's often viewed as a very complex process. Now, simplifying it down into these 3 steps can save you time. If you know that the first thing you have to do is get set direction, it saves you time going, well, where do I start today? Set direction. What's the vision statement? What's the mission statement? What's the direction we're heading in? If you then know, we're like, okay, we've got our direction, now what? Now it's time to look at those initiatives, and you bring in your team to brainstorm. That also gives you buy-in and saves you time because they're bought into the whole process. And then the final one of actually making sure that you're constantly feeding in what's going on. You have basically constant rehearsal going on as you're executing your strategy, something most people forget. So today's homework, very simple, a bit like the 3 principles I've just shared with you. I want you to share in the homework thread on Slack, what is it that you are currently struggling with in strategy? Which of those 3 principles are you not currently doing, if any? Are you doing 0, 1, 2, or 3? Remember, step 1, set strategic direction and then those high level goals, maybe some objectives and some metrics as well. Step 2, develop and rehearse your initiatives. And then step 3, implementation, which includes managing unexpected inputs as you go along. Are you doing 1, 2, or 3 of those, or none at all? I look forward to chatting with you in Slack.